The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report. Like a bad penny or terrible luggage, you just can't shake them. Although it has been, I was thinking this, Seth. He's Seth Merrow. I'm Anthony Mormino. For those who
welcome back.
I
have never heard bad luggage.
I think something about, not like you can't get rid of it, but people just hang on to it for so long.
Yeah.
And you keep your luggage for generations.
Yeah, I kind of get it. I never heard that before.
For those who are new-ish to the sport, I haven't been in this studio for 5 years. 5 years next month, Seth. I was thinking about this when you texted me the other day, and I was like, boy, when was that? I know one thing, my card swiper doesn't work. That was a bad sign.
No, well, don't feel bad. Mine doesn't work either.
I don't feel bad now.
The box is broken.
Okay. I was like,
I had to knock two.
But sat in this chair with Seth for really for me since 1998. Did some changes. They've been great at Capital for me. I've done the summers continually, but this is the studios I think we moved to around autumn of 2011, somewhere in that venue, Seth, after being in Schenectady since the inception of Capital OTB. But did this Saturday and Sundays for a long time, for a while by myself, the alternating chairs. But Seth said, our son now, I was talking to Danny, who has been here since I've been at the network. Our son is a freshman in high school now and marching on. And there were a few times in life when I was doing horses and courses at the old 510 Smith Street, and Anthony was little, and we used to have two desks. And one was off camera, obviously, and I'd be like, you have to sit and you have to be quiet. I used to pray that I could get to we used to do like 3 internal breaks, and I'd be like, can I get to each break and, give them a moment of my attention and everything? And I think we did probably 3 or 4 of them in over 8 years, let's say, when Anthony was young. He never once said a peep, and now he's a freshman in high school, almost as tall as his father. Luckily, he got his mother's good looks. But 5 years. I'm going to do Belmont. Seth is going to do I'm going to do Belmont. Seth is going to do Monmouth Park. A lot goes under. And I saw, it's not on the table anymore, but I saw your Hall of Fame thing.
Brian Bouye coming up and racing across America.
Tepin got in, and Beholder, which are 2 slam dunks. What's funny about Tepin was, I'm not usually right about these things, but a couple years ago I was at the Breeders' Cup, and Mark Cassie was there. And we were talking about, she might have been running. And I said, well, and she didn't win the second time. I said, it doesn't matter. She's going into the Hall of Fame. And I fervently believe that. But a lot of times the horses that I think should be in don't make it, and et cetera. And she got in, and a little smile came to my face. And I'm hoping to run into Mark saying, I don't get a lot right when I'm picking them sometimes. But she was, we've talked about this. First off, it's hard for turfers to get in. She's a middle distance turf, which is hard, and she's a filly. That might be the heaviest weightlifting other than sprinters to get in, but that's how good she was.
One of the races that I think put her over the edge of watching was Brian Bouye.
The Ascot race. I think you're 100% right. I think it's just the type of thing that just, I don't want to say moves into, that's not big enough. It's, I don't want to say earthquake or a tremor, but it was the type of thing that just catapulted her to a different area, and she was able to follow it up, and you're like, well, she's got to be special. Nobody does that. Yeah. And that's really good. Here's one for you, because I know he's going to get in, but Justify, who's going to change, the whole, 110-day career. Did you vote for anybody that didn't get in?
I did. Humans, Doug O'Neill, Corey Nakatani, I voted for. Oh, and Christoph Kaman I voted for.
A lot of...
Who didn't get in.
Now, you don't participate in the Twitter world very much, but I know you follow it very much. This is the most, I won't call it angst, but it's close to angst, and I think the angsters are correct. Kona Gold, and this is what's funny for me now, Seth. All these horses, the modern day horses, we lived and saw their whole career. And I'm like, I know he won the one Breeders' Cup and he lost 4 of them. I'm like, there's probably been no horse ever put up performance figures that he did for like 25 straight races. He ran huge. Sometimes horses ran bigger. He was, I know he's a sprinter and I know he only won the one Breeders' Cup, but he was great. And he should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that seems to have been.
And the triple-digit buyer, there's no.
He was like, you don't see that type of performance come up. And I also want to say to you now, it's back up. So if I didn't see you every day on television, or practically every day, I was going to get nervous because my source of Equidaily went stale from Breeders' Cup. And then I went back the other day knowing I was going to see you today in person. And I noticed
for the Triple Crown, I bet. And the game plan is
you're changing it.
Yeah, we're going to go to like an Equidaily 2.0, hopefully sooner rather than later. Although I've been saying that for a while now, but there's a bunch of different things.
Well,
it'll be a little more evolutionary than revolutionary is the way I put it. So it won't be wildly different for people who are happy with the way it is, but it'll have more and it'll be
as everybody
a little bit
knows,
different.
I mean, the work you do here and the work that's a lot of work, and there's only 168 hours in the week, but because it's I know I'm not the first person to say it, but you get past DRF, which is their industry, I think you even rival the Blood Horse now because they don't seem to be as great as they used to be. It's one of the top 3 sites in the game for those of us who love horse racing. You touched a lot of bases. I had no idea how you do it. It's way beyond my scope of understanding, but
for people who are looking, we'll be back. Certainly by Saratoga.
Okay. All right.
And again, a little bit different. And as again, we're going into the Derby, because I know a lot of people rely on it for Derby, and there's free PPs out there and things that we link to.
Now, here's a marketing question for you, because you have a business thing, are the T-shirts from the Derby without the winner on it invaluable, or do they send them to the third world for children like the winners of the Rose Bowl who didn't really win it?
It seems like you would think they would have a little extra cachet.
I would think they'd be invaluable. The way my mind thinks, I'd want to get them all.
Yeah.
And will they make another one?
I don't think they will make another one.
I think you're right. I think that's a bad job on their part. And I think that's going to be the greatest T-shirt in the history of mankind. Walking around with that puppy.
And then I will also say, the week before somewhere in the week before the Derby, before scratches came out,
right?
One of the other betting services must have asked all of their handicappers to make a wager on the Derby, and one of them said $20 on 1 through 20. He essentially was saying, I'm going to put $20 to win on everybody in the field. Hope something crazy happens.
Yeah.
So he had $20. He had the bet ticket like out $20 on 1 through 20, and I think it was clearly his thinking was, I'm going to play.
I'm taking the field. I wanted $20 shot to win.
I think it was Ed DeRosa on Twitter then subsequently retweeted it and said, well, here is the perfect example of why you never do all but one. And I thought, nailed it.
It's I wasn't here on the air, but I thought it was, I got beat. I ran 6th, and when I text Brian Natto, who I liked, who was Barbara Road, he goes, of course you do. I said, well, it was the right stratosphere for odds. It was just the wrong horse. And what I take out of it is who people like Seth and I, we'll get into it a little bit, how differently our expectations for races are different, and we get there through different means. But I'm a pace and a trip guy. That's really, that's like 95% of how I get where I'm going. I mean, I ran track and field in high school. I was okay, and pace to me is important. And a race like the Derby is like a perfect science experiment to how pace can really make a certain type of race. And everybody was watching, and my horse was banging with Mo Donegal in their own match race. And, I knew who it was right away because of Silks. Now, Saddle Claws, people got messed up. But I knew, because I knew Fox Hill Farm wasn't in the race, but those silks remind me of Fox Hill Farms, who had Songbird and other very good horses. So I knew who it was. I turned right to a friend of mine and go, that's the 21 horse. Don't worry about saddlecloth. And this horse, I said the same thing with Mind That Bird one. I go, you are not going to get enough.
Yeah, a lot of people, 80 to 1. And how was this horse not 800 to 1? I ran second, third, and fourth.
Good job. I mean, second.
Epicenter, over Pioneer Medina, over Zandon, over Simplification. Box those up with exactness and tries mid-stretch. I'm going to the window mid-stretch. And then who's coming up on the inside? If you haven't heard the news, Rich Strike will not be participating in the Preakness. They're going to head to the Belmont. To me, we'll see. But to me, this was as fluky a result as you can get. I'll be surprised if Rich Strike, we're still putting him in the 3-year-old stakes conversation by Travers time.
Reminds me of Gatto del Sol. If you're not familiar with my work, there's very few times at the end of a horse race do I shake my head and go, I was shaking my head. It's not, he came out of the synthetic races, the Jeff Ruby. You're just like, I don't know what the figure was, like a 67 or something. You're just like, the jump, the leap, you're just like, I don't know, it's like seeing a high school hitter and you go to the major leagues and you can step up your game. It's just, and even with the pace and everything, there weren't other horses that put in a better closing kick than him. He was actually the best horse off the pace runner, and it was as inexplicable to me. And the reason I'm bringing it up is I'm the softest grader on inexplicable. I'm like, very few things are inexplicable to me.
Well, if we go back to similar prices, at least in the
now, I got to say this because I wasn't doing it for capital, but I have proof. I loved Country House, and this is what I say. Here's the difference. And we could get into the morning line odds, which are a terrible disservice to the casual fan, and Derby days. Country House was 30 to 1 on the morning line, and that was about a fair price. I would have been happy to take about 22, 25 to 1. The bettors made him 75 to 1. He did not deserve that price. I do not, he paid 160, and I'm in the black for the Derby, but he was not a 160 horse. He was about a $57 horse to me in a Kentucky Derby that I thought was wide open with Bill Mott, and I got the GQ. That's fine. Rich Strike was an 80 to 1 shot. And I know they're two of the top three, but I think if we got 10 people in here and you jog their memories, and for example, like somebody said to me, and Barber Road was also 30 to 1, I go, I thought that price, and Barber Road went up almost to 60 to 1. But Country House's price was not the right price for the work he'd put in New Orleans. Rich Strike was an 80 to 1 shot. My horse was not a 75 to 1 shot.
And going back, Giacomo, I actually liked. I played him in future pools, and I liked him.
And he was what, 50?
Yeah, 50.
50.
But he had placed in some Santa Anita stakes. He had been in some higher quality races and run well. And Mind That Bird, as a 2-year-old, he won some stakes races up in Canada.
He was the champ. He was the Sovereign Award winner.
So, they had, you could look down their resume, and this was a tough pull.
In the old days, that guy would have been one of those 157 to 1 shots.
Yeah. That was a tough poll last week. Otherwise, anything else you liked last week? Olympiad, Bill Mott. Olympiad and obligatory. Bill Mott is loaded when you toss in Speaker's
Two things,
Corner.
because we might remember how poorly obligatory ran in the test stakes last year. She seems to love Churchill Downs, and the race set up for her.
I think you go back to the Gulfstream race, though. She might just be better this
year.
Okay,
that'll be fine to me. Now, I know this will be, people say this is my typical angle, but I can look like a fool. At the end of the day, the best athlete of the day on Derby Day might have been the winner of the 14th race. The first-time starters, Strobe, Brad Cox, Godolphin. I asked, and I apologize because I like his work so much, and years ago we were doing certain types of shows. Craig Malkowski,
yeah.
Love his work.
Time for him.
We're Twitter friends. We, we actually through Twitter personally, his family had some things, but that doesn't matter. But I've asked him to just personally send me the work on show. I think his race is better than Jackie's Warrior in his debut. But and he hasn't sent me back. I can't imagine what his time for number was. I know his speed figure was much lower than I guessed, but once again, getting to pace, his race is better than Jackie's Warrior, who I think most people would say is the best male sprinter in the country. But if you get a chance, race 14, they ran at about 8:45 at night, and it's scary how good he went 1:08 and change in his debut. How about the one other thing? One race, and I know it's a Kentucky Derby, over 2.5 hours at Churchill Downs.
Oh, yeah.
That's a little rough.
It's whole day. I mean, we were in here at 10:30. They don't wrap things up until almost 8 o'clock.
I said
and it's their one big day. And
it is. I listen. I've done it. It's great. I'll say this. Just give it a frame of reference. If you went to Churchill Downs that day, think about this. Your day, you could fly from LAX to Tokyo. Some places are not as far away as you think. You ready, my friend?
I am.
This is great.
We'll jump in. I'll look at Monmouth a little bit later on. Anthony's going to kick things off with Belmont Park. Don't forget, you can always pull up the one sheet as well on the website. But let's jump in. The opener at Belmont today, we're looking at state-bred maiden specials going 6. And I will say our friends at Bonaventure Stable, they have Ocean's Reserve in here. So always like to root for our friends. And certainly that one coming off a season, debut last year at the end of the Saratoga season, has a little layoff to overcome. But what do you like in the opener?
I love the card today. I mean, the one thing some of these racetracks.
How can you not like the cards?
Well, no, that was a super bummer. But what I meant to infer is the idea like Fairgrounds does it. They pick out like there's 3 weeks, 3 Saturdays with the right gap that they know they can run these types of series to fill into each other. And they've gone to that. We grew up in an era completely different where there'd be this is the way to go. So early in the Belmont meet, this is a great card. Yeah. The opener for me, 5-1-3. One of the things I like, and Craig pointed this out, Mikowski from Timeform US, they always say like New York Traffic or New York Anthem. It's NY. It's like, it's not New York Traffic. And you know, John calls him. I like his work. I watch his race down at Park. They're a guy who I think does a great job, and he was at Naira this winter. I think he's outstanding. Is it Griffith? He's a young guy. He's good, I think. But the Park's announcer. But I call it NY Anthem, but they're going to call. Obviously John Embriel, who calls it New York Traffic, is going to call it New York Anthem. I think this debut is sensational. I know you look down 127 and change for 7 furlongs. Listen, Seth, yesterday at Naira, we had a 6.5 furlong go 120. So let's go easy there on teletimers. And I think Dylan Davis isn't winning his 1,000th race unless the final running time was 120 and change. I think this race was an outstanding starter. The exacta was inside. NY Anthem was outside all day. Now, here's the problem for me. Was 7-1 in the debut, is 8-1 on the morning line, gets Kendrick Carmouche. I think it all fits. I've talked about this before on the work I do in the summer, is the muscle regression. But I like the debut. I think I'm going to get lost in the wagering. NY Anthem, my top pick. For a second, from the rail, number 1, Conquest goes out for John Kimmel, second start. Debuted in the autumn, gets Lasix today for Trevor McCarthy, and for third, number 3, Eminence. I will say about, you mentioned Ocean's Reserve. You don't like to see you race in September. I thought a pretty good race, and you go to the sideline. That's not good. You can definitely infer something went wrong. You're not putting this type of horse on the sideline. But I thought that was a better than looks debut. Hopefully everything is fine and they come back. And Seth, one of the many changes in the game from our youth to now, but in the old days, you'd X out this horse for 2 races. They'd get 2 races to get back in shape, and then you'd start eyeballing. That's not the way the game's played anymore.
Yeah, and it took me a long time.
I'd like to talk to some of these trainers about, like, how one just works alone. Can you then take on game day and be so good?
No, it is a completely different. Yeah, even a horse like Forgo, especially horses like that, they would come back for the new season and first race they were you were not using them. You were second race at Belmont this afternoon. Conditional claimer, 6 furlongs on the grass.
You want to know what Jeff Carl told me once about one of the things? He goes, trainers' win percentage is in the form, and they don't.
No, I think that's
losing races.
Yeah.
Is not good. They felt, and we have different types of owners nowadays than the old days. So, but 7-1-2 race stand up is my top pick here, and I if you're looking at the horse off an 18-month layoff, there's not much to see there. Forgetting that was an allowance race, now we got a 35 claimer. But what I liked was they reached out for Flavion Pratt, and this gentleman is at the top of the game, and he took the call on a 35-3L off of a non-encouraging return to the races. And I have said this before, whether it's debut races or races off an 18-month layoff, practice. So I'm throwing it out. And you don't talk about into mischiefs when they're in for 35,000. But my angle here purely is that a very sharp young trainer goes to Flavion Pratt. He takes the phone call, takes the mount. So I'll take stand-up number 7 on top. Going inside to complete the trifecta, Stan Hope is my second pick. I know we see Bonnie Lucas in there. Think Wayne Potts. By the way, Cleveland Johnson, I saw his name in the form the other day. Last time I saw him, he was training Richard Dutcher Jr.'s horses. But Cleveland Johnson's been around a long time. Yeah. And then Ring of Fire, Dylan Davis, I mentioned, he got his 1,000th victory. That seems fast.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
He was just a young guy. I actually met him one day at the old.
I can pull it up right here. I think he's been going for about 10 years.
10 years, is it?
First stat shows up 2012.
Yeah. The old tent at the track on the right-hand side that got replaced by the building. Well, one day Anthony had to be like 6, maybe 8, because you're saying those years, and Anthony was born in 06. And when he got done riding, I was at a party where his father was at, who I've known for 40 years, Robbie Davis. And he came over. He was really young, and he had some good wintertime results when you're young. And I was like, wow. And I saw that for the 1,000. I was like, that's pretty quick on the Naira circuit. So congratulations to the Davis clan.
And then they had interviewed his sister a little bit later in the day, Jackie Davis, who had a win on the card as well, talking about how proud she was.
They both won 2 of the slowest 6.5 furlong races in Naira history.
But I looked it up or read it in an article maybe. She has like 750 wins. So
you'd beat me for a beer there.
She's doing all right too, and having a nice season out at Finger Lakes as well. She's kind of bouncing back and forth. Stakes action kicks off in race number 3 at Belmont. The vacancy handicap, grade 2, $150,000. The ladies sprinting 6.5.
Now this would be the type of race if we were at Saratoga and Seth and the 2 handicappers, and if it was Seth and myself were doing this, you'd get a real look-see at how differently we look at races. And I'm just supposing here.
You don't have to suppose. I like Bella Sophia.
Yeah, I mean Seth has his own system that he could explain. He's done on the air with me before, and I have a system. Bella Sophia is clearly the horse to beat in here. I mean, there's no doubt in here. 4 to 5 in the morning. By the way, I thought the 3 to 5 on the opener yesterday was ridiculously low for a morning line. That debut race was not something out of this world that you're expecting.
Was that the shot with Hop
Shot? Yeah, the Joe Allen. I'm like,
I sat in here, which is a perfect example of me and the way in the afternoon.
Been like 5 to 2.
In the afternoon, I can look at the odds.
By the way, never looked like a winner in that race. Never looked like a winner.
I sat here and I said, when you can look at the odds, I said, I like the horse. I think the horse is the most likely winner. But like that much, the odds were way too short.
Way too short.
And the horse that wound up winning, I said, this horse is live. And,
yes, that's like.
And you're handicapping. You're looking for the live horse to make your pick with. I'm calling them kind of.
I just think Bella Sophia. Yes.
And so I can do that a little better in the afternoon, looking at the odds.
Yes.
I call them the way I think they're going to come under the wire.
And I've said this before, and trust me, I have 4 sisters, and they've known me my whole life since I'm the youngest. They look at me, I'm crazy. I go, I would like Bella Sophia at 7 to 5. I don't like Bella Sophia at 3-5. And they look at me like, that makes no sense. And I'm like, okay, happy birthday to you too. So Seth would like, but I like, and I tell you, this is a horse I beat up Seth since day one. I'm 253 here. I'm always against Frank's Rocket, but I was looking to go against Bella Sophia, who I'll touch in a moment. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking a stab. Sometimes I like 8-1 shots against 3-5 shots. Sometimes I'm stabbing. I'm stabbing here. I don't have much faith in Frank's Rocket. And if you thought I kept waiting, I have no faith there, except I need kept waiting to influence the outcome greatly with the early speed. But Frank Rocket, I thought, could sit off the early speed and pick up the pieces, and by some miracle, Flavion Pratt would beat Bella Sophia. And listen, Bella Sophia only won 2 listed stakes races last year. I mean, most of this $900,000, Seth, was made when she was a 2-year-old and early in her 2-year-old season. So she's a long way away from Bella Sophia, who I have in second. So the horse to beat for Rudy was sensational until the Breeders' Cup Sprint. That happens, makes the first start of the year. It's a grade 3. I suspect, Seth, they have grade 1 vision plans. Maybe today's the warm-up. I don't know. I'm not willing to find out at 3-5. Now, here's something I like to ask my partners. Do you think she'll be 2-5?
I don't think that's out of the question, because for whatever reason, I'm talking to people and trying to suss out why. But it seems like over the past couple of years, the American racing public, when they see a favorite, they jump on board. To me, they're much shorter prices now than there ever used to be.
Like, here's one. We would probably agree there's a better chance to be 2-5 than even money.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference in the pool. So to me, it's 2-5-3. This is one of those times when I'm saying, yes, I'm trying to beat Bella Sophia. I am reaching. I am stabbing here. I have little confidence that Frank Rocket could ever beat Bella Sophia on the come. I'm just thinking that Rudy's got big time plans, and maybe the vagrancy is a grade 3 is a place I can pick her off.
I had Michael Dubb and Libby Imperio on with me up at Saratoga last year, and we were talking about the new Belmont Child Care Association facility up at Saratoga that they had put together, both being members of that. And that interview ended, and Libby said, "Hey, you never asked me about the horse I got coming up in the test this weekend." And it was Bella Sophia. And after the race, I walked out the winner's circle. I said, "Hey, next time that happens, kick me under the table and remind me."
Or just yell out, "We're live!"
Exactly. The 4th at Belmont this afternoon. Starter allowance at the $50,000 level. They're on the grass in the 4th at 3/4 mile.
One of those, as you get older and you get lots of pages now. But 10-2-7 for me, ladies and gentlemen. It's this is one of the few things as a public handicapper, Seth, I've given to the game besides picks that's valuable. If you do what Seth and I are doing, and you look at a race for a while, and nothing jumps out at you, nothing comes to you, do not, as a public handicapper, then settle on the chalk because you have no good ideas. I advocate the idea that that's exactly the opposite of what you do. If it doesn't jump out at you, if Bella Sophia doesn't jump out at you, and that'd be hard not to, when you start looking for your top pick as a public handicapper, go elsewhere. So I am 10-2-7, what I think is the most wide open race. It's not going to get a lot of attention on the card. If you have a fervent opinion, I mean, you go with it. But I had none when I was done looking at it. So then I was able to eliminate who my top choices would be. So Stella Mars making the second start of the year, Ray Handel, Dylan Davis. I'm happy with the comeback race. I'm happy with the fact the horses always hit the board on the Belmont turf course. It's a wide open race. $14 would be attractive to me. For second, number 2, Missing Link, Peter Walder, who's come to New York and done okay. Has a live runner in here with Javier Castellano, who has had a couple races. This will be the 3rd race off the claim, and for 3rd, number 7, Happy Hill Lil for Gary Siaka, making the first start of the year, with Joel Rosario in here, who I think fits this horse very, very well. But I thought it was a wide open race. Don't take the favorites when you feel that way. 10-2-7.
Back to stakes action in race number 5. It is the Run Happy Grade 3 event. $150,000 up for grabs. 6 furlongs is the trip.
I know we're not. Do we ever take breaks?
Yes, we'll take one right after this.
Okay, that's good because I missed that at pre-production. But you want to drive yourself crazy, Seth? Go on equibase.com. Go to Graded Stakes and punch in Run Happy. And about 35 races will drop down as Mattress Max has gone hog wild with Run Happy. When do you think that ship is going to sail? 2 more years?
Yeah, with him probably.
Okay.
Probably a couple
My
more
point
years.
is, if you use Equibase, you go for them. He's put his name on stakes races with this stallion. Some of them have stopped. Some of them are continuing. But this used to be the old Diablo Stakes in New York with 5 or 6 races, a couple stops, rerun, etc. But I like this race, and I think this is a highly competitive race here. This is one of those races, Seth, I think it's fair to say they're all live. There's not a single horse, but I like one particularly. 5-2-4 officiating is my top pick here. Just a couple things. First off, it says Sprint B $100,000, a restricted race at Tampa, one-year-old Haunt, Seth. Do you know what the real name of that race was, or the full name, I should say?
No.
Naira Bets.
Oh.
I was taken aback. But at Tampa, they ran the Naira Bets Sprint, and this horse at the top of the lane looked awful. You would have thought at 7-5, this horse was going to get beat 20 lengths. Was competitive at the first part of the race, sitting behind multiple horses. I thought looked in a winning position. Looked awful, but as soon as this horse changed leads, he re-engaged. The problem was, Seth, the furlong and a half that he looked awful, he lost too much ground to make it up. So what I'm hoping is I'm going to get a better price. That's a given. And that the poor result as the beaten favorite was a function of 18 seconds in the middle of the race that we didn't need, and that the horse bounces back to the Tom Fool 2 races back at Aqueduct when ran the race of this horse's career. I'm throwing out Saffie Joseph's race down at Tampa, coming back to New York. I like officiating very much in this race, which is very even. I have drafted second, comes out of the Carter. Those waters were far too deep. And for third, number 6, Answer In. But 5-2-4 in the Run Happy.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll jump into the Pick 6 down in New York a little bit later on in Monmouth. Stay tuned.
Have I killed you?
The Clubhouse Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the Clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at capitalotb.com.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Welcome back. We are looking at a little Belmont, and as I say, we're going to kick back in with the sixth race, which kicks off the pick six. And no, there's a carryover today in the pick six, $39,000 carried over into today's pick six, which kicks off with the allowance non-winners of 1 mile on the turf in race 6. And at the top of my page, I have written wide open, and I put a couple of hash marks under the word wide.
I agree with you there. I'm 10-9-8. I'm going to the far outside. King of Prussia Stable. If you remember Princess of Silmar, this is them. Joseph Brocklebank, according to Equibase, I think this is the first horse he's run.
Oh, interesting.
This is it. Chironi, the 10, my top pick in here. It's very infrequent, Seth, you ever have a favorite who only gets one call in a route race. But in the Tepin Stakes last fall, Chironi only got called one time. We're bouncing back, kicking off the 3-year-old season. For a second, right next door for Brad Cox, number 9, Angelica, gets Lasix for the first start since July, first U.S. start. And for third, one of my favorite trainers of all time, Neil Drysdale, number 8, 10-9-8.
State-bred allowance, or state-bred optional claiming non-winners of 2 other than runners in the 7th, going 7.
4, 1A, and 9 for me, ladies and gentlemen. Foolish Ghost gets my top pick. Ray Handel's runner makes the first start of the year. In for the tag in here. This seems to be the right level. This horse, you can see when they try Stakes Company on fast track, they get run over, but this is a good spot in the air. I think will be very competitive going back to this level. Previously was competitive. For a second, the far outside, 1A, St. Selby. Rob Atras makes this runner, sends this horse out for the 4th career start, already has 2 W's, and 7 Lilies for third. 4, 1A, 9 in the 7th.
Back to stakes action in race number 8, and a nice stake. It is the Grade 1 Man o' War, $700,000 up for grabs. The Trip, 1 mile and 3/8 on the grass.
This is just it's a short field. We don't like short fields generally. This is a terrific race. I think for many, the 2-3 vie for favoritism, and that makes sense to me. I'm going for the 2, though. Go Food, to me, was dynamic in the Pan American. Now, the downside for that, for me, Seth, is you run huge, you have the muscle regression. That race was Florida Derby Day. Seth was getting a tan. But I just thought that was an impressive start to the season for Christophe Clement. You're taking on the Breeders' Cup winner. Ybor, I thought was pretty mediocre in defeat at 1-4 in the second start of the year. So, has already won at Belmont Park. He's the horse to beat, but I'm trying to beat him. And for third, number 4, Alban going on. I know Peter Aiello mentioned that he thought they were walking on the front end on this pace. Oh no, he thought the opposite. He thought they were really going at it. I don't think that's the case. That was a rock hard turf course, and I thought they were dawdling. And I thought this horse raced well. I am 2-3-4 in a very nice race.
I have them in exactly the same. Obviously, I have handicap for this afternoon.
Yes.
Exactly the same order. I'm going to be interested to see where the betting public goes, because Ybor is the even money favorite in there, and I'll be interested to see if that switches up by post time. All right, 3-year-old action in the Grade 3 Peter Pan. That's race number 8, $200,000 up for grabs. It's 1 mile and 8 down at Belmont. That's 1 turn.
And Seth, in our youth, we would never think 2 horses would be taking on winners for the first time. 3, 4, 6. My top pick is one of those. Complete Agenda, Todd Pletcher's runner, breaks the maiden in the 5th start. Now takes on winners. You know, it's how the game is played today, ladies and gentlemen. There's not, what do we have, 2 or 3 multiple winners for second. We the People, who I think a lot of people were really, really high on this horse, like one of those quick starts, and then was terrible in the Arkansas Derby. This is a more realistic get back to the plan after a nice 2-turn allowance win at Oaklawn. And for third, Western River, 3, 4, 6. In the prep for the Belmont.
A lot of people clearly on it. He was 2-1 in that Arkansas Derby. Took a lot of action.
But he was one of those ones, kind of, that they just, sky's the limit.
Yeah. 10th at Belmont today. It's the Bogey Mile and a 16th on the grass. $150,000 up for grabs in the Grade 3.
Now, I'm presuming almost as much as this is the Grade 3 that this is the race of the day, right? Is the one, didn't they pay like $4 million for this horse?
Oh, yeah.
They paid like $2 million for Speak of the Devil, who was the second best horse on Derby Day, talent-wise. And now,
Rogier, I think.
Rogier is, I think they paid $4 million. Maybe the same sale. But I'm 3-1-2. Stolen Holiday for the big upset here, because they're going to go all 1-2 for me. They're going to go number 1 big, I think. Stolen Holiday for Shug, making the 3rd start of the year that I love. Nice comeback race, a war front. The waters are deep here. This, Seth, is as tough a Grade 3 as you're going to find. Yeah. Rogier, number 1, is my second pick. You know, this horse could just run over the top of them. No one would be surprised. I think you might be surprised to get even money. And for third, number 2, La Mista. As good a Grade 3 race as you're going to see.
And that wraps it up, right?
No.
10? There's an 11th?
Yes.
Oh, I don't have the 11th.
10,
no,
11,
I do
2.
have it. I do have the 11th. I thought there was 11 too, but
that's his subtle way of saying I took too much of his Monmouth time.
My pages were stuck together. The 11th is State Bred non-winners of 1, going 7 on the grass.
I'll get out quickly because 10, 11, 2, post time is 6:21. But I will say Theodore Grace at a solid price. I like in this race. 10, 11, 2, wrapping up a terrific 11 race card at Belmont.
Yeah, I thought there was 11. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we will head to the Jersey Shore. A little Monmouth action. Stay tuned.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's alongside Seth Merrow. I'm Anthony Mormino. Now time to turn our attention to, as Seth said, the Jersey Shore, Oceanport, New Jersey, Monmouth Park.
Have you been? I've never been.
Yes. Haskell Day, 1987, and I went in 1998 also. Tremendous. But I have said this, and I think we've talked about it when Steve Bick's on there. It's one of the most difficult places to get to in New Jersey, and it takes forever to get there because it loops back around that hook, etc. But once you get there, it's actually one of the most enjoyable days at the racetrack. But I was there the day, bet twice, beat Lost Code and Ali Sheba. Claimers in, Phillies and Mares in for $30,000. Capital B Racing 6.
7, 1, 8, and 4 for me. Expect to be ready. Perfectly named.
Oh, by the
horse.
way, you can't see the shore.
Oh,
It's a ways away.
As compared to that shot at Del Mar, which I love.
Oh,
the
that
shot across
is
the street
legitimate.
At
You
the
stand-
beach.
you stand at the
there
top
I know
there,
you've
you-
been.
yes.
But perfectly named, expect to be ready, because I have written here, holding good form. And I think this horse comes out of a win at Tampa to break the maiden. But the 2 workouts before and after seem to indicate that this horse was in good form coming into the race and holding that good form coming out of it. I said in the afternoon a few days ago, as this Tampa meet has now ended and horses moved to other places, I'm interested
You
to
don't
see how
count that
some
day
of
of racing on June 30th?
the. No, if you pull up the stats on Equibase, it's because I did that when I wanted to mention the human leaders last week when the
Okay.
meet ended, so I pulled it up. And I'm like, what's with the dates here? It's
have-
essentially a year long. It
Yeah.
goes from like the last of that summer starts and the beginning of the
I
summer
think they had like
ends.
3
And-
obscure race
yeah.
dates.
And for folks who aren't familiar, it's something in the
Oh,
Florida
absolutely.
law that they have to
Absolutely.
run to have their card room, I think. And so they do have 3 summertime dates that make Tampa a little funny. But the what we would consider more traditional
We
meet
never
ended
close.
the other day. And I'll be interested to see what those Tampa. I think they're going to do all right. Lady Zeta, the number 1 horse in the second spot, coming up from Laurel. I think comes up for the high percentage, Claudio Gonzalez. Interesting to see what he'll do at Monmouth this year. I think he was starting to make some dents down at Gulfstream as that meet progressed, but I think this horse will fit nicely with this group. And Little Miss Sassy in the third spot, another high percentage conditioner, another horse coming up from Tampa. And another horse on the class I think is going to fit nicely. He's kind of been bouncing around class-wise down at Tampa. But at this 30 level at Monmouth, I think is going to be a square fit. Opener at Monmouth, 7, 1, 8, and 4.
Second half of the early daily double, we stay going 6. Optional claimers in for 16, starter allowance.
2, 5, 4, and 7. The number 2 free dancer comes over from Penn National. This, I said I'm going to be watching Tampa. Penn National, I never know what to do with these horses because to me the class is just too much of a jump. That said, the past, 2 months or so, seems like some of these Penn National horses have been doing okay on moves to New York and whatnot, so we'll see. But I think this horse, with the early speed, could be very tough in here. Third start off the layoff. I'll put that one on top. Mitre Porciento in the second slot. Claimed 2 back and then went into one of those starter stakes on claiming championship day in New York, and you would have to think that was the game plan off the claim. The claimed race didn't run that well. The stake didn't run that well, but there are races down the page that are good enough. I'm going to look for this horse to rebound in with this bunch today. And then High Five Cotton in the third spot. Again, you talk about Tampa, comes up from Tampa, but gets Sammy Camacho, who rode so well down at Tampa this year, and comes in with some good form. Claimed last time, moves into the barn of Bonnie Lucas, who's the assistant to Wayne Potts. So I think this one will be okay off the claim. And again, with the rider on board and whatnot, there are things to like there as well. Race number 2 at Monmouth, 2, 5, 4, and 7.
On to the third, our first two-turn race of the day. Mile 70 yards for claimers in for 75.
5, 1, 4, and 6. Ludo, number 5 on top. And if you look down the PPs, we're looking at all turf races except for the one off the turf or 2 back. And I think, regardless of the buyer, I think you can make the case that that's the best race on the resume. It was the maiden breaker. It's the lone win. So getting back to the dirt today, I think Ludo is going to be very interesting in here, particularly class-wise. Moves down class, gets to dirt, where I think the horse races well. Super Shoes, another one coming in from Tampa. So we'll start to get a barometer, I think, today on some of those Tampa horses, but comes in also off a maiden breaker last time. Took 20 starts to do it, but certainly is in the hunt more often than not, having hit the board 11 of those 20 starts. So I think we'll be in the mix with this bunch again today. And then Tempestuous in the third spot. Again, Sammy Camacho on board, a horse who also broke the maiden in the very last start. Did it down at Tampa, did it with Sammy Camacho on board, and did it in a fashion that, again, I think is going to fit nicely with this group of $7,500 claimers. In the third at Monmouth, 5, 1, 4, and 6.
On to the fourth race, Jersey Breds. Fillies and Mares going 5.5 furlongs, maiden special weight.
8, 3, 4, and 6. There's some interesting horses in here that have a little bit of breeding that is kind of interesting, and I put Random Luck on top. Now, there's a sibling called Runaway Train. That one was second, third, second, first. So one in the first 5 starts, but also 3 seconds and a third. Another sibling called Sarcastic Wit that won the first 2 starts of the career. So I think there's some win early. Clearly did not live up to that in the debut, but with that one under the belt and the win early breeding, comes over from Parks. I'll tilt in that direction, but I really wanted to look elsewhere because of the trainer who has started 7 horses so far this year, according to the Racing Forum, with no wins. I didn't like that. I just didn't see a whole lot else. And the other horses that I was attracted to also have trainers who are on offers this year. One of those being Amazing Grace's Joy. Has bounced back and forth between the turf and the dirt, but tends to show some early speed. I think that speed could be very dangerous in this field today. And Bikini Babe debuted on the turf last September at Monmouth, tossed in a clunker. The trainer really showing no stats whatsoever. But again, this is another one with a little bit of win early breeding. A sibling called Lost Princess, won in the 3rd career start. A sibling called Heading Home. Took 9 starts to win, but it was for the same owner and showed a little life in those starts. And mostly, though, what jumped out at me, a horse like this in a field like this, throwing in a 46 and change work, that may show some intent, so I'll put that one in as well. In the 4th at Monmouth, 8, 3, 4, and 6.
On to the 5th race, 3-year-olds in the Long Branch, racing a mile 70 on the dirt.
4, 1, 3, and 6 for me. I'll put number 4, Dean's List, on top. Pletcher runner that showed some life in the first couple of starts with a win in a maiden to break the maiden in the first start. And then won an optional claimer in start number 2. That always indicates some talent when they can win the first 2 off the bench. Ran second subsequently in the Gotham to Morello. Then they tried the Bayshore. The 4th there was a little bit disappointing, but now get over with a group that I think this horse might match up with pretty nicely. Dash Attack after the first 2 starts, I really liked, and I thought he would be live in the Southwest, and then I still was kind of on board in the Rebel. Yeah, those turned out to be disappointing, and then disappointed again in the Lexington. I just can't quite get off the bandwagon, though, given those first 2 starts. I'm going to look for this horse to maybe rebound in here. And Benevengo in the 3rd spot. Just an interesting angle. I always like horses off a layoff or to start the career, a couple of sprints, and then in the 3rd start back or the 3rd start of the career to stretch out. I always think that's kind of an interesting angle, as I say, and so we'll put Benevengo in the mix. 4, 1, 3, and 6.
On to the 6th race, claimers in for $8,000. For those who haven't won a race in 6 months, racing 6 furlongs.
6, 5, 7, and 2. Summer Bourbon on top. The aforementioned Joe Brocklebank,
yes,
kind of kicking off the career. Going to be interesting to see how that all works out. Comes over from New York. Nice little second place finish last time against $10,000 claimers. Now moves to the 8 calendar condition level. I think class-wise is going to class up nicely with these. Probably Grace in the 2nd spot. Claimed from a bottom level claimer down at Tampa, and then they went into a optional claimer starter allowance, so moved in against a little saltier group, but ran very well there. Again, I think this horse is going to class up nicely here for a higher percentage trainer, 2nd off the claim. And then Cliffy in the 3rd spot. Another one that 2 starts back was probably closer to this class level than he was last time, and won that start 2 back. Faltered a little bit last time against Saltier, but I think a more interesting prospect in with this group, and I think the cutback in distance is going to be key for Cliffy as well. In the 6th at Monmouth, 6, 5, 7, and 2.
On to the 7th race, Jersey Breds, Fillies and Mares. Non-winners of one other than going 6.
2, 6, 9, and 5. I'll put Pomptini on top. Lately raced, and really there's only the one race to kind of recommend. That was the race 2 back. I'm hoping we can get to that. Can we get to it off a layoff? I don't know whether the works are really screaming that, except for the latest, which was okay. And I'm hoping that kind of indicates this horse does come back ready to run. I will admit, I'm jumping in here without a lot of confidence, but there wasn't any alternative that really jumped out at me either. I Can Run in the 2nd spot, broke the maiden when dropped in for a 40 tag last time down at Laurel. It's Claudio Gonzalez, high percentage guy, coming up from the Mid-Atlantic to try some Monmouth company, and I think is going to fit with this group and take it to committee. in the hunt far more often than not. Comes in with a string of second place finishes. Hasn't been seen since November. And I will say, 14 starts, 1 win, 7 seconds doesn't instill confidence, but I have the horse down in the bottom of my mix. Comes in with a bullet workout, and at worst is in the hunt for a piece, as this horse can typically do. So in the 7th at Monmouth, 2, 6, 9, and 5.
On to the 8th, optional claimer, starter allowance on the dirt, mile 70.
5, 6, 3, and 8. I will put Curlin's Thrill on top. This one takes a class dip that you would have to think is going to, well, I say class dip. Class dip from 2 back, was at this level last time, was at this level 2 and 3 back, but it was down at Tampa, and I wonder how that's going to match up class-wise with this group in here. Overall, though, the thought process was I think this horse will match up nicely. Comes off of a couple of 4th place finishes down at Tampa, but as I say, looking at this group today, I think can improve on that in here. Coach Adams coming up from Oaklawn. Always like the Oaklawn shippers as their meet ends and they ship around. Last couple of seasons, maybe not quite as potent as I would have liked, but this one I think will be a player in here for Jerry Hollendorfer. And Long Gray Line probably would have been my top pick. I went back and forth and looked at the other two, and I debated about Long Gray Line. But again, we have a trainer who's a little bit of a lower percentage guy, and on those percentages, I wasn't comfortable pulling the trigger, but wouldn't talk anybody out of the 3. In the 8th at Monmouth, 5, 6, 3, and 8.
9th race on the card, co-feature, Jersey bred fillies and mares, the Spruce Fur Handicap, 6 furlongs on the dirt. Do you remember Spruce Fur?
I remember it kind of. Not right. I couldn't recite the record by any
Okay,
means.
well, not a record, but the funny thing to me is that a rooting turfer. And her stakes is 6 furlongs on the dirt.
Yeah, I mean, these stakes names
I would say
are,
like around 1987, 86, she was a very good middle distance turf runner, and
yeah,
her
these stakes
is
names
today.
often do not are not reflective of. There was
Man of War.
There was but there was a one just within the past couple of Derby weekend. Oh, the Knicks Go, I think was that the one I'm thinking? There was one anyway within the past couple of weeks where it was.
Well, the Knicks Go makes sense. It was a route on dirt. I mean, that makes sense.
That may not, but there was
different.
one within the last couple of weeks that was definitely, because there was another one on those Twitter. Was like, ooh.
She was a rooting turfer. Pretty good.
9th at Monmouth, 8, 9, 3, and 10. Alta Velocita on top. Just was in good form when last seen. That goes back to February, so we'll have to overcome the layoff. But working okay down at Delaware. And the fact that this horse is working at Delaware and they kind of looked in the condition book and said, yeah, let's ship up and take this shot, attracted me. Bramble Bay goes out for Mike Deeney. Always like to root for Mike Deeney down at Tampa. Wind up with some of his winning for me down there, and this one comes out of a win down at Tampa. Now, that said, was on the turf. I do think this horse, if you look at the off-the-turf race on the page, the last one, it was pretty good. If you look at the latest workout, it was pretty good. So I think Bramble Bay is going to be okay despite the surface switch. And Dantastic in the 3rd spot, coming off a nice win down at Laurel, should be absolutely live in that current form. That was the first start of the season, so will there be a regression because it was also less than 2 weeks ago? But if this horse can string a couple together, Dantastic is dangerous. In the 9th at Monmouth, 8, 9, 3, and 10.
And the finale, maiden claimer is in for 10,000, going 6.
7, 5, 8, and 4. Not a Postino on top. Again, it's a trainer that's not showing any stats, so a little bit concerned about that. But this guy had the horse last year at Monmouth, so maybe just kind of a summertime trainer, as it were. Did pretty well with this horse last year, and so against this kind of lower level bunch, up with that one on top. What a guy in the 2nd spot, gets class relief that is A, notable, B, concerning, because it's a stiff drop. Raced on the turf last time in a maiden optional claimer down at Gulfstream. First race of the career here at Monmouth was absolutely good enough to win this. Subsequent starts, as I say, this horse has been a little bit disappointing against better. I'll see if this horse can rebound. Turf to dirt, 2nd start off a layoff, getting back to Monmouth. What a guy is playable. And then in the 3rd spot, we'll go out to number 8, our boy Cheekham comes in from New York, gets a class dip that could be beneficial to this one, and a relatively weak field. A horse with 12 tries hasn't gotten it done. Probably fits in with this group though. In the 10th and final at Monmouth, 7-5, 8-4.
Well, that wraps up the handicappers. I know you have Brian Boyer from the Hall of Fame. Who else you have on Racing Across America?
Ellis Starr,
Okay.
National Racing Analyst for Equibase. We'll take a look at some of those nice stakes in New York, and he also wanted to preview, have the Cartier coming up tomorrow at Woodbine with a really nice field in there, and he was going to take a look at that as well. So some stakes previews with Ellis.
Well,
welcome back.
Thank you.
It was fun.
If we do this again, you can almost bet even money Seth goes first. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the Handicappers Report. He stays, I go. Enjoy the great day of racing today. Now I looked.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Bet.